think we all believe in the veterans community that it would be fantastic if Trump had decided he was interested in donating any of his vast wealth, which he loves to talk about so much, to veterans organizations in any substantive way before he decided he wanted to be the next commander-in-chief. I think Donald Trump believes that veterans are for sale. And here's the thing he needs to understand that he clearly hasn't comprehended in the last week. We are not interested in making a deal as veterans when it comes to the security and safety of our brothers and sisters still in uniform.
That right there, one of the organizers of that veterans rally outside of Trump Tower yesterday. Many vets are joining the mainstream media and questioning Donald Trump's motives and timing, announcing which charities are benefiting from money he raised earlier this year. The media is selectively covering Trump's donation, or should we say, is the media selectively covering Trump's donations, and is he trying to buy veterans' votes as alleged by that veteran we just heard from? Welcome back to The Hard Line. I'm John Bachman, sitting in for Ed Berliner. New York Times bestselling author, Reagan biographer, and presidential historian whose latest book is The Last Act, The Final Years, and the Emerging Legacy of Ronald Reagan. Craig Shirley joins us. Craig, great to speak with you again.
Thank you, John. Good to be with you.
All right, so we kind of know what was going on. Donald Trump, of course, can get TV cameras on him any day he's at the podium, but yesterday he chose to hold this news conference.
Yes.
A few minutes after that, those veterans were outside of Trump Tower. Is there going to be any kind of lasting impact from this incident with Donald Trump and these vets and the money?
Not the vets and the money, and I think he'll probably, I think I've seen some recent polling which showed him basically skunking Hillary among the veterans of America, their vote for their preference in November, is that I think he put the media to shame for trying to suggest that he wasn't being forthcoming about the money raised or the money being dispersed. And I do think he kind of set the tone too. There's a belief in this country that the media, there's a media royalty which has gotten out of control, gotten kind of full of itself in Washington and New York, and that he put them in their place. And he is smart. He is so smart in so many ways. He defines himself by being anti-Jeb Bush. He defines himself by being anti-Scott Walker, by being anti this candidate, anti-Ted Cruz. He keeps defining himself, and now he's defining himself by being anti-Washington, but more specifically, anti-liberal big media, and that always serves his purpose.
I want to talk about something Mitch McConnell recently said about who's going to have the bigger impact on whom, the Republican Party on Donald Trump or vice versa. And this is Mitch McConnell quoted here, I believe, in the USA Today. My view is that Trump will not change the Republican Party, America's right of center party. If he brings in new followers, that's great and well worth the effort. But he will not change the Republican Party. Trump has also pledged that he will not seek to remove McConnell or Speaker Paul Ryan from their leadership positions. But every Trump supporter that I speak with, especially the most avid Trump supporters, they will tell you that they want him to win because they hope he changes the Republican Party.
Right. I think it depends, John, if he wins or if he loses. If he loses, my guess is he'll fade very, very quickly from the scene. And I think everybody agrees that. If he wins, he will change the Republican Party, but not by as much as you think. It's still Ronald Reagan's party. It was still formed and shaped and conceived, the modern Republican Party, by Ronald Reagan. So if he changes it, it'll only be on the margins, in terms of trade, some things, trade deals or things like that. But otherwise, is that he's going to pursue, I believe, a conservative course, much like Reagan did.
I would take issue just a little bit with what you said, Craig. I yield to your vast knowledge of the party and whatnot, but Donald Trump was asked, what are the three most important functions of the federal government? Number one, he said security, safe answer. Number two, he said healthcare. Number three, he said education. That is the Republican nominee for president who said that. Also, he still supports funding for Planned Parenthood, I believe. So this is the Republican nominee for president who advocated for these positions. I would argue that he has already changed or forced the Republican Party to change in a way.
Well, yes, and you are absolutely right. Is that the Planned Parenthood thing is going to have to be addressed, and he's going to have to change on that. The other one I would simply chalk up to being kind of a rookie mistake. He runs intuitively, not intellectually. Now, you and I would say the conservative response to the proper role of the federal government is to preserve the freedom, is to uphold the Constitution, and protect the security of the
Right.
of the
Answers
people of the
number
United States.
1, 2, and 3: Constitution, Constitution, Constitution. Right.
Right. Yes. Right. Right. And everything that follows thereafter. So I would. That's more a question of his ignorance of the answer, not necessarily giving a wrong answer. I think he just kind of blurted out healthcare and education. I think he was thinking more tactically instead of strategically, like you and I are.
All right. Well, we can't fault him for that. Now, Bill is joining us from Seal Beach, California. He thinks Trump needs a female vice presidential nominee. Bill, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Do you have a question or comment for myself or for Craig?
Yeah, I love the show. Watch it every day. Trump supporter and fan. Now, quickly on Benghazi, that would have taken a garrison of troops to protect it. How can we have a garrison in a foreign country that absolutely hates us to begin with? So without a garrison, we couldn't have protected it. We were dead. We should never even been there. So if you want to be intellectually honest about the subject, that's what you have to, that's exactly the area you have to go on. 2, a female candidate, that would be fine with me. Because 3 years ago, I would have supported Hillary. Now, Donald Trump comes on the scene. I definitely, and everybody out here, supports Donald Trump. We want to change. We want a new face in Washington. Get rid of the problem people. We'll help get them elected and get them out and give them a mandate. What do you think about that?
Greg, what do you think about that?
Well, I think a woman a candidate, I agree with you on what you're saying about our presence in foreign countries. It was taken, obviously, nation building and all the other things that were carried too far with the Bush administration. And we're paying a political price for it now, and also a world price, so to speak. I think if it's the right female candidate, really the reason you pick a vice presidential candidate is to produce a unified convention, because unified conventions tend to win in the fall and divided conventions tend to lose in the fall. I would think that Governor Nikki Haley would produce a unified convention. I would think that Senator Joni Ernst would also produce a unified convention, while adding the extra cachet of being a woman on the ticket with Trump. I still think that at the end of the day he's probably going to pick Newt Gingrich, but that remains to be seen.
You think it's Newt Gingrich? Yesterday he mentioned Jeff Sessions.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, I think he's thrown out a lot of names there, at least a half dozen names, to keep things guessing and keep an air of suspense going into Cleveland. But I think that to produce a unified convention, somebody who's a Reaganite, the idea person, somebody who's beaten the Clinton at their game time and time again, somebody who's a terrific debater, and somebody who understands permanent offense, and would just unify the convention, would be Gingrich's probably a fairly good choice.
Man, you mentioned the debating aspect of all this, Craig. I think Gingrich is a great VP candidate, except he's not a female for Trump, as Bill would like. But you mentioned the debating aspect. Clinton is already compromised on who she's going to have to pick for her VP. I think this would compromise her even more. I would not want to debate Newt Gingrich.
No, absolutely not.
I think we had another caller standing by. Do we have another caller waiting for us? No? All right. Well, if you had to, so your guy is Newt Gingrich, Craig. If you had one guess as to who's going to be Trump's VP pick, you would say Newt Gingrich.
Yes, I would at this point. And I'm not alone either, John, is that there have been several articles, admittedly by inside Washington reporters who are more often wrong than right. But also there's gaming sites, where people actually bet on everything political.
Right.
And Newt is far and away winning those gaming sites right now.
It's hard to bet against the money. These guys tend to know what they're talking about. Craig, Shirley, as always, great to see you. Question, though. Craig, before we go, 10 seconds. Do we find out who the nominee is going to be before we get to Cleveland?
Yes.
We do. Okay.
Yeah, it'll leak out.
It'll leak out? All right, we'll see. I'm not so sure about that. I know Trump wants the big reveal. He's a showman. He might wait for that, so we'll see. Maybe some false names thrown out there, too. Craig, Shirley, as always, great to see you. That's all we have time for today. Good sitting in for Ed again today. We'll be back tomorrow here on The Hardline. We're also going to have our focus group, although we call them trusted members of the Newsmax community. What do they think about Trump and the media, Hillary Clinton's email scandal? How's it all going to shake out? We'll hear from 8 very special people right here tomorrow. For now, I'm John Bachman, filling in for Ed Berliner. Thanks so much for being with us here on The Hardline today.